Okay, so I'm about to ask you to do something that will seem incredibly counterintuitive to Black well-being. But I want you to stick with me. Hear me out. Now, back to the big ask. If you haven't done so already, I want you to give up hope. Now, before you look at me like I'm the feds, I want to be clear that I'm not asking you to fall into despair. I'm asking you, me, all of us, to engage in what may be a radical set of departures. Let's start by defining and talking about hope. Hope, as defined in the dictionary, is an aspiration, a wish, oftentimes optimistic, or for a desired outcome. Biblically speaking, hope is never experienced. At the time that we receive what we hope for, or are confident that we will receive what we are hoping for, we are operating in faith, which is defined as a certainty, assurance in our future aspirations without any kind of evidence. Hope and faith are interwoven. On a personal level, hope is fine. On a global level, is it something that Black people should be invested in? Hope is us wanting something of this world. It wants the world to be better. It wants white and other non-Black people to get their shit together. Hope is what keeps us educating, voting for the lesser of two evils, preaching love and forgiveness in the faces of brutality and abject poverty. Hope says that if Black people keep working, keep smiling, keep loving, keep being magical, that everything will be all right. So then hope is a coping mechanism. Since it resides in the future, it allows the world to act on us while we wait for something that may never come, and relies on our faith in people, systems, structures that we should have no faith in. While hope does not rely on evidence, Black people do know things. We have evidence. And what that evidence does say is that we exist in a nexus of desires that relies on anti-Blackness to maintain itself. Faith and hope require no evidence, but is it not dangerous to ignore what evidence we do have? So much of Black optimism uses hope as the framework. Black love, Black joy, Black magic, Black care. Not only are these wielded in some very unimaginative, uncritical ways, but they may be calling us toward deadly alliances. In a recent ad for a 3-part masterclass on Black history, Black freedom, and Black love, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw stated that Black love is that thing that makes you believe in American democracy, even when American democracy hasn't believed in us. Okay, so I thought for certain that we'd all be like, Black love does what? But after the response to that, and the amount of Black people who clamored to announce their patriotism, after Mitch McConnell said that African Americans vote as much as Americans, I began to wonder if what Crenshaw said is true. If this world relies on Black suffering, Black labor, Black productivity, and generativity, then us sustaining ourselves also allows everything that comes against us to sustain itself. So what if we give it up? What if we decide not to want anything from this world or to see it thrive anymore? Now, I'm probably not suggesting what you may think I am, although I will certainly not preclude it either. Let's talk Alice in Borderland, the specific instance of the beach. If you have not seen this series on Netflix and think that you may want to watch it, stop now, as I will be spoiling it a bit. Watch the first season, gather your thoughts, and rejoin the conversation. For those of you who have seen the show or read the manga for Alice in Borderland, you know that people are trapped in what seems to be an alternate Tokyo. All of the people trapped must play these brutal games during which many people are maimed and or die. In this world, there exists this place founded by Takeru Dama, who goes by Hatter, called the beach, which is a sort of utopia where almost anything goes. People who survive the games are able to come party, drink, and lose themselves in hedonist pursuits to cope with the brutal reality of the game and their inability to escape it. This, of course, is unsustainable as clashes arise between those who take to the logics of the brutal nature of the game and find themselves validated in the violence of it, those who seek to live in a blissful delusion or anesthetized state and are made dangerous through desperation, who step outside of themselves because of the impetus to just survive, and those like Arisu who don't see the game as natural, inevitable, or even insurmountable. As the beach grows more unstable, the most violent people, who probably unsurprisingly form the militant faction and the only group allowed to carry guns, begin to lose control. Hatter is no longer able to hold on to the hope that the delusion of the beach was supposed to offer, and he decides to set his best friend up to kill him. A plan that works, as Aguni does indeed kill him in what he thought was a life or death situation. Aguni begins to despair, seeks to destroy everything and everyone in an outward expression of his own suicidal ideations. Which is actually what I think white folk are doing through uncontrolled capitalist assaults on nature. As the beach erupts into violence and the hotel burns, so too does the hope of the people who rely on it to keep them sane. Arisu, however, decides to take down the game and game makers. Having never bought into the delusion, he was able to focus on the abilities he possessed and of those around him. He was in pursuit of the truth of the game. He moves out of knowing, not faith, which is to say that he relies on what he knows about himself and comes to know about others instead of hoping that the game will remediate itself. This allows for tactical, predictive moving. I'm not so sure that this could be called agency, but it could certainly be called resistance and refusal. Let's bring this back to us. We know that this world in which we exist has not yet and cannot seem to honor us. We also know that there is no greater force on this planet than Black creativity and imagination. If we gave up wanting anything of or from this world, what could we do with the time, energy, and other internal and material resources we spend on trying to repair it, educate it, participate in it? Instead of going door to door to register Black people to vote for candidates that disappoint us and never even really achieve the harm reduction we sought, what else could we be giving out? What other connections could be made? If we are going to insist on Black love, Black joy, Black care practices, Black life, is there a way that we can practice them in such a way that they don't prop up the world? Can we stabilize ourselves while destabilizing all that is around us? How? Something that I'm still thinking about and that I would like to know your thoughts on. Is resistance more possible for the players in the game because they have an immediate reference for a life and world lived outside of the game, the way our ancestors who were brought directly from the continent would have? If so, does this mean that in being removed from such an existence, that we have no reference for something to get to or get back to? Or since the Black is the truth of global anti-Black suffering, out of which this world or game was built, and since we constantly resist because we seem to feel and know in our very being that we are not free and move toward it, is it possible that the moves toward freedom and the ways we resist and practice refusal can inform us, and honestly others, of the divestments and departures we need to make? In my thinking, Blackness is what lies beyond the border. It's beyond the border of the human and its categories, beyond nation states. It is where all that has been left unimagined or de-imagined resides. Arisu has a world to give back to. Black folk have blackness, which is not a world, but a realm of potentiality that we and all others can and should move toward. And I don't know what it means to move toward that outside of the idea that blackness is a constant and consistent revolution, that it is freedom constantly becoming itself in a never-ending project, but it is precisely the project of imagining and knowing that Black people are so imaginative and creative that allows me to find such exhilaration in the project of leading all of this. If I could be said to be a man of faith, it is because I know Blackness, the imaginative prowess of Black people. And that has inspired me to give up hope. I want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know whenever we drop new content. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we can continue these conversations and explore Black imaginative production together. Visit the website to sign up for emails for more information about how we're moving. And lastly, if you so choose, support our Patreon so that we can garner virtual, but also actual space for continued education and imaginative community building. All links will be provided below the video.